Hopefully this is the last video of the whole set. Number 22. Let's rewrite this twice. Feel free to jump ahead, see if you get the right answer before me. So I want to rewrite this twice. I want to put the 4 square root of 5. Hold on. So there it is, written twice. Now let's distribute. You have 4 square root of 5 times 4 square root of 5. That's like saying 4x times 4x. 4x times 4x is 16x squared, right? So the first part's going to be 16, but instead of x squared, you have the square root of 5 squared, which is just 5. Now maybe I should show my work. Let me show my work so people don't get confused. 4 times 4 is 16. The square root of 5 times the square root of 5 is the square root of 25, correct? Which later we're going to change to 5. Let me show my work so people don't get confused. And then if I go 4 square root of 5 times 5 square root of 4, I want to multiply the coefficients together. 4 times 5 is positive 20. And then the square root of 5 times the square root of 4 is the square root of 20. Yay? And then, let me change colors here. I want to go 5 square root of 4 times 4 square root of 5. That is once again positive. 5 times 4 is 20. The square root of 4 times square root of 5 is the square root of 20. And last but not least, 5 square root of 4 times 5 square root of 4. 5 times 5 is 25. And the square root of 4 times the square root of 4, I want to show my work, is the square root of 16, which we know is going to change to a 4 in a little bit. So let's go back and simplify first and then combine like terms. So we said we could do the square root of 25, that's 5. So I really have 16 times 5. Why did I put 15? 16 times 5. And what is 16 times 5? 80. Thank you. And we have 20 square root of 20 plus 20 more of those square roots of 20. So that's going to be 40 square roots of 20. Yay? And then, last but not least, over here, we have the 25 times the square root of 16 is 4. So that'd be plus 100, right? And we could combine like terms. 80 plus 100 is 180. So let me rewrite this. We have 40 square root of 20. And let's put the plus 180 right in front. So we have 180 plus 40 square root of 20. Now some of us might think that we're done, but we're not, because we could continue simplifying the square root of 20. So let's zoom in on this. Now let's do the square root of 20. That becomes 4 times 5. When you split it, you'll get 2 square root of 5. And you bring down the multiplication of 40 right in front. So that's really going to be a final answer of 180, just bring that down, plus 40 times 2 is 80 with the square root of 5 right next to it. There's your final answer. 180 plus 80 square root of 5 for number 22. You got it? Number 23. Check out number 23. Simplify the expression. A lot of people start thinking, you know what, I want to change this to a power over root. Well, that's a great idea. A lot of people think, let's simplify the square root of 28, make it 4 times 7, but don't do that. You know why? Because you have the same base already. You'll have 28. So let's change them to rational exponents. The first one will be 28 to what power? 1/2. The square root is the 1/2 power. That's right. So we really have 28 to the 1/2 power. Now the second one is 28 to what power? 4/5. And what's happening between them? Multiplication. So I'm going to put multiplication. So we should all remember rule 1 of exponents that says if you're multiplying with the same base, what do you do with the exponents? If you're multiplying with the same base, what do you do with the exponents? Add them. That's right. X to the second times x to the third is x to the fifth. So in this case, we are multiplying two terms that have the same base, 28. What am I going to do with these exponents? I'm going to add them. So this is something you're probably going to do on the side. 1/2 plus 4/5. So 1/2 plus 4/5. And then we'll go back to the actual answer. But let's do the powers. Let's add the powers. In order to add 1/2 and 4/5, you need a common denominator. That's going to be 10. So how are you going to change the 2 to become a 10? You're going to multiply both top and bottom by 5. So that means you get 5/10. And that makes total sense because 5/10 is really 1/2. How do you change 5 to become a 10? You multiply by 2, so you multiply by 2 and you end up with 8/10, which makes total sense because 8/10 reduces down to 4/5. Of course, we are adding these fractions, so now I could actually add them. 5 plus 8 is 13, and it is over 10. Now that's not your answer, that's the exponent of your answer. So far we go back up to where we were at, and let's rewrite our answer as 28 to the 13/10 power. Now if you look for that answer on the multiple choice, it's not going to be there. Because first of all, that's an improper fraction, right? Which could be changed to a mixed fraction. 13 divided by 10. That will go in, it'll be 28, it'll go in one time, there'll be a remainder of 3 over the original 10. Are you with me? Okay? So now that we have a mixed fraction, we're going to split the base and write it as our final answer. We're going to write 28 to the 1 power, the whole number, times 28 to the 3/10 power. 3/10 power. Okay? Now let's change it back to a radical. So our final answer is going to be the number 28. What kind of root? 10th root of 28 to the 3rd power. Number 24, it says solve the equation. Don't forget to check your answer. So this is the 5th root of 4v minus 3 minus 12 equals -5. So let's first isolate the radical, or isolate the rational exponent. And we're going to do that by moving the -12 over, by eliminating it, plus 12, plus 12. So you're going to end up with 4v minus 3 to the 1/3 power equaling +7. So how are we going to get, wait, not 1/3 power, I'm sorry, 1/5 power. So how are we going to get rid of the 1/5 power? Let me move this equal sign a little over, make more space. So we're going to get rid of the 1/5 power by doing the power of 5 on both sides. Doing the power of 5 on both sides. So when you have a power to a power, you end up multiplying. So if you multiply 1/5 times 5, that ends up being 5 over 5, which is 1 over 1, which means that you just have 4v minus 3 equals, what is 7 to the 5th? So we end up with 16,807, and now of course we're going to continue solving. I'm sorry, that's wrong. We're going to add 3 to both sides. Add 3. So this will be, let me rewrite it over here on the side. 4v equals, what's that, 16,810? 16,810. And we're going to divide both sides by 4. So you can't divide by 4, you could reduce, right? So let's reduce both by 2. How's that? Divide top and bottom by 2. And V will equal 8,405 divided by 2 over 2. I believe that's how they're going to leave it on the answer. Question? So let's move on to the last one, number 25. Let's isolate the radical first. So we're going to go plus 4 you're going to end up with 6 square root of 7h equals 4. And we're going to get rid of that 6 by dividing by 6 and dividing by 6. So we're going to have the new radical equation, the square root of 7h equals, you could reduce 4 over 6 to 2/3. And after that, we're going to get rid of the square root by squaring both sides. You will end up with 7h equals 2/3 times 2/3 is 4/9. Now we still need to get h by itself, so we're going to divide by 7. Now dividing by 7 is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal 1/7. So instead of dividing by 7, you might want to write it as multiplication of 1/7 because that's easier to understand over here when you multiply. Whoops. Question? So of course the 7's cancel. You have h equals 4 times 1 is 4. 9 times 7 is 63. H equals 4 over 63. That is your answer right there. Now if you wanted to double check it, which you should, actually I forgot to double check the top one, even though on the answers it says don't forget, on the instructions up here it says don't forget to check your answer. So let's go back to both of these and check our answers. So if I were to take the answer 4 over 63 and plug it in my equation, it says 6 square root of 7 times 4 over 63 minus 4 on the outside equals 0. Let's see if it actually does equal 0. When I multiply the inside, 7 over 1 times 4 over 63, the 7 and the 63 could cancel out. You'll get a 9 left over on the bottom. So what we really have is 6 square root of 4/9 minus 4 on the outside, it should equal 0. 6 times, split the root, square root of 4, square root of 9, minus 4 equals 0. So you're going to have 6 times 2 over 3 minus 4 equals 0. And 6 times 2/3, that's going to be, if you multiply 6 times 2, that's 12. And 1 times 3, that's 3. 12 over 3 minus 4, does it equal 0? Yes, 4 minus 4 equals 0. So you're absolutely positive that the correct answer is 4 over 63. Now let's go back up to the top, because even though we got a nice answer, well, it wasn't nice, it was ugly, but you're supposed to check it because you might end up with a extraneous solution. So when you plug in this disgusting fraction into the v, will it work out? I don't know, let's check it out. Let's rewrite everything. Instead of 4 times v, we're going to put 4 times 8,405 over 2. And let me plug it in exactly the way it looks. It originally had parentheses with the minus 3 right here to the 1/5 power, and then minus 12, and it should equal negative 5. So when we look at the inside right here, the 4 times 8,405, the 4 and the 2 cancel, you'll have a 2 left over. And when you multiply 2 times 8,405 on a calculator, 16,810. So we really have 16,810 minus 3, that's going to be 16,807. This is ugly. 16,807, but you need to take the 5th root of that. I don't think that's going to work. Let's see. On a calculator, is there a certain number that you could multiply with itself 5 times that'll give you 16,807? The 5th root. So on the calculator, the 5th root of 16,807 is 7. 7 to the 5th power is 16,807. So this really does equal 7, and 7 minus 12 really is negative 5. So you've double checked it. You know that you have the right answer. even though it's a disgusting fraction, 8,405 over 2.